Domestic violence incidents can often escalate to life-threatening situations. Through our training and partnership with local law enforcement, we're able to decrease not only the lethality risk, but to connect clients to life-saving resources. So maybe just start by telling us each of your roles and how you work together.
So yeah, my name is Brandon Eberhardt. I'm the training sergeant for the police department. And with that, I'm responsible for kind of overseeing all the training that our officers get.
And I'm AJ Buntrock. I'm the Director of Community Response, so I oversee our coordinated community response team at CVIC. We work closely, Sergeant Eberhardt and I work closely because part of my role is to train law enforcement. Our team tracks the crime data, sees what's going on, then we also can analyze that data and look at what are we seeing, how do we address these issues, and then we can work together to train.
And one of the programs that we use frequently is the Lethality Assessment Program. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, our Lethality Assessment Program, also known as LAP, is a tool utilized by Grand Forks County officers and deputies to assess the lethality, the likelihood of a victim being killed by their partner. So it's a 12-question tool, and the officer will walk through it with the victim on scene. If the victim is assessed as high danger, based on their responses, then the officer will connect them with an advocate. And the goal of the tool is the first fast-tracked connection with an advocate.
And can you tell us, Sergeant Eberhardt, how it looks in practice? Because it's something that we like to use the program because it really helps us prevent that violence, which is why we're all here.
We respond to a lot of domestic calls. Anytime there's any violence, allegations of violence, threats, or even if an officer just has a bad feeling about a situation, then the protocol kicks in and we'll go through all the questions with the victim. Some of the questions include things like, has he or she ever threatened to kill you before? Has he or she ever threatened suicide? And based on their score, then we determine whether or not we're going to call an advocate. And when we contact an advocate, it's right there on scene. We actually hand them our phones. So we'll let the advocate know what our safety concerns are, and then they can get to that victim right away.
And that's something about domestics too that you all have educated me in the law enforcement just about their unpredictable situations.
Yep.
You can walk in, it's looking okay, and then all of a sudden it's out of control.
Absolutely.
And this is another question for AJ. We launched the program in 2015, and since then the officers have used it more than 800 times. Can you give us a little bit more information about the data that we're using to kind of track?
Yeah, for sure. And I want to highlight that stat. That's more than 800 victims connected with advocates on scene, day or night. So we track all this data, and we look at what's happening, what are the trends, what questions are victims answering most to in a year. In 2022, Grand Forks County conducted 159 lethality screens. 71% of those victims were identified as high danger. So,
wow, that's serious.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and it also shows that we're reaching the right people, is what that stat shows. I also like to highlight the number one most answered yes question too was the question about controlling, jealousy, manipulation, and I think that's interesting because those are the characteristics of domestic violence relationships.
That's really powerful. And we actually work with you and your team to train on the LAP protocol. What does the training look like, and what impact has it had on how you kind of operate day to day?
So I think the training is huge because if you just hand cops and say, hey, here's a card, read the questions, you might not get that institutional buy-in. Which we have, obviously, the data shows that. But part of that's because of, AJ and his team coming in and telling all the officers, this is why we do this. This is why we ask these questions. And they have all the stats and data. Obviously, that's what you guys are really good at. But they have the stats and data that back it up to show, hey, this really helps. And we have a really young department, especially our patrol bureau. And one of the things we've learned with, kind of the younger generation as officers is they will run through a wall for you if they know why.
Okay.
So
Love it.
the training on the LAP protocol gives them the why. Why are we asking these questions? What good does it actually do? And if anything else, cops are pragmatic, and you can say, hey, the data shows this is going to prevent future instances of violence. We'll get behind that 10 out of 10 times. So I think the training, where they provide us with a history of it, how it was developed, and kind of the science and data behind the effectiveness, goes a long ways. Officers get to be pretty good at recognizing, yep, this is the time. This victim needs these services, and we got to get them in contact right now.
For sure.
We really appreciate what you're doing to help us intervene in those situations and connect them to us, because we find if they do get to, the victim does get connected to us, they're 50% more likely to continue getting help for it. So, but what does this partnership mean to both of you in each of your roles?
I enjoy our partnership a lot. And when you were talking about training, I think the big thing was, for me, is just understanding the why behind what we do.
Yep, absolutely. I think the partnership between CVIC and the police department, it weaves in and out in many different places, but without being face-to-face, getting to know each other, that tight-knit group makes everything way more effective, for the community.
Thank you both again for being here. We're excited about the partnership and what we can do to continue to train and work together.
Thanks for having us.